Is the GRE exam a difficult one?
GRE is a computer adaptive test. Score that is a good score. The best score for a student is the one that
The preparation. So do you believe in self-study or do you believe in students taking up proper training for the GRE?
do self-preparation as well. However,
The vocabulary section is a pain for a lot of students.
precisely. Watch a number of movies, right?
So I hope you guys have learned something here.
I'll give you a very nice example of learning vocabulary.
Do you have any advice on that, how to manage their time during the exam?
I suggest to every student of mine is,
What's the most common mistake you've come across with these students?
so my advice to every student is,
I think the students out there, you should understand this part, right? Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another session of Insights with ETA Education Services. Today we'll be talking about the GRE exam, which is the Graduate Record Examination administered by the ETS, which is required by a number of universities abroad for certain postgraduate programs. Today we have Mr. Sushant Vashishta with us, who is the head of the training department and also the verbal faculty at ETA Education Services. He has been training students for the exams like GRE, GMAT, SAT and CAT for more than 10 years. So welcome Mr. Sushant Vashishta to this Insight session, and we are looking forward to gaining more expertise from you.
thank you so much for having me here.
All right. So the first question which a lot of students have is the GRE exam a difficult one?
So see, GRE is not really a difficult exam. I'd like to say it's more on the trickier side. See, it doesn't really go on and check the core knowledge of a subject. All it checks is your aptitude. How smartly can you answer a question? Though I'd like to add a point here that unlike the CAT exam that happens in India, GRE is a computer adaptive test wherein it just might be tricky for a number of students to adapt to the test.
Okay. So that was a great insight. You said that the test is a computer adaptive test. So what does it actually entail?
So see, it's pretty simple. What happens is a GRE offers you 2 sections of verbal and 2 sections of mathematics.
Right.
Now, whatever your performance is on the first section of verbal, that will impact the difficulty level of the following section of verbal. And the same applies to the quantitative aptitude as well. That's the computer adaptability.
All right. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm sure a lot of students might not have known about this, the computer adaptiveness of the test. So if they do actually take this into account, they might be able to get a good score. So which leads me to my next question. What do you think is a good GRE score for a student?
See, that's a fantastic question. When you talk about a good GRE score, generally what we consider is a score that is 324 plus is a good score. If you go into your 330s, that's a very good score. But understand, with GRE, you can also score a perfect 340. However, I'd also like to add here that the best score for a student is the one that the university is asking for. Also, the students have to remember this point that the higher rank the university, the higher the GRE score requirement would be.
That's a good point. So I think the students out there, you should understand this part, right? If the universities require a certain score, you need to get that score. And if you want to apply to a higher ranked university, you have to get the best scores. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks.
So when we talk about getting the best score, if we take an average student who has average English or an average level of mathematics, so how much time would a student need to spend on preparing for the GRE test?
All right. So, given the scenario, what I really believe is that 3 to 4 months are good enough to prepare for GRE. In fact, what I suggest to a number of my students is that despite their busy schedule, if they can dedicate 3 to 4 hours in a day to their GRE preparation, they'll be good to go for the test in about 3 months.
Okay, that's a good point. So I think regular time should be given to the GRE test so that one can actually get a better score.
Indeed.
Great, great. All right. So when we talk about the preparation, so do you believe in self-study or do you believe in students taking up proper training for the GRE?
Okay, see, now when we come across students who are fantastic, students who are voracious readers, students who have fantastic vocabulary as well. Now, all these dedicated students who have a lot of tenacity can always go on and do self-preparation as well. However, given the fact that GRE is actually a very tricky test, it entails a number of things wherein you don't just have to answer a question correctly, but you also need to answer a question in a given frame of time as well. I really think that the right motivation and knowing the tricks of the trade helps you in getting a fantastic score for GRE.
Okay, thank you so much for that again. I think it does matter even if a student has a reasonable score in a mock test, say for example, and needs to prepare they need the push. I think they need somebody to push them to get the better score. So I think proper preparation should be the choice there.
Precisely.
Great. All right, great. Also, I think GRE is one of those exams where, the vocabulary section is a pain for a lot of students. So what would you suggest students to do to increase their vocabulary for an exam like GRE?
Okay, now see, I come across this question a lot, and trust me, I'll not be able to be very precise about the answer. The first thing I'd like to say is that there is no magic formula that goes on and teaches you vocabulary overnight. It is very difficult to go on and know almost all the GRE words in a month as well. Now, see, when I come across a number of students and they give me the same complaint, I go on and tell them that it's a constant process. You keep acquiring words throughout your lives. I mean, of course, when you talk about me as a trainer, I'll always welcome you in my class and I'll tell you a number of tricks that can help you learn vocabulary. However, for that, you'll have to go on and join ETA Education Services and attend my classes as well. Apart from that, I generally tell a number of students, I mean, you watch a number of movies, right? Watch a number of British dramas, read a number of books as well. However, I do agree that not a lot of students are fans of reading. They don't really go into a lot of books or read articles, but I'm pretty sure that all of them listen to good music. All of them probably watch good movies as well. Learn a lot of words from there. I mean, I see students when they talk about movies, every movie has subtitles. It easily, when something goes on and says that there's pensive music being played, students can guess, every individual can guess, what do you mean by pensive? When they say that there is ominous music going on and the situation is gloomy in itself, you can always understand what sort of a situation are we talking about. So, my suggestion to students would always be this: do not just bank on a coaching institute or your reading abilities to go on and learn a number of words. It's not a 3-month process. You've got to go on and give it a continuous push, learn from every possible source.
I think that was a very detailed answer to that question. And I think you're right. These days, generally, people and students don't have a lot of time to read. Because they are into the bachelor degree, they are preparing, they have internships. So this was a good point. A lot of people watch Netflix, I'm sure, and a lot of dramas are there. They listen to a lot of music, and when you spoke about the subtitle part, that's an excellent way of actually learning English. So I think that's a very, very good point there. So I hope you guys have learned something here. And,
in fact, I'll give you a very nice example of learning vocabulary, which really helped me as well. So I was a fan of WWE as a kid growing up, and there was a commentator called Jim Ross, and he would use such fantastic words, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would watch WWE. And I will tell you, if you listen to the commentary there as well, you will come across a number of words that are actually tested on the GRE exam as well.
All right, that was a great point. I'm sure a lot of boys and girls, I think, watch the WWE, and they'll be really happy to actually, listen to the commentary there, even nowadays as well. So great, that's a great point. Okay, so when we talk about the GRE exam, a lot of students have come to me as well. They've said that it's very difficult for them to manage their time during the exam, per question wise. So do you have any advice on that, how to manage their time during the exam?
See, that's a fantastic question. And what I suggest to every student of mine is, before they give the real GRE exam, they must give a number of mock tests so that they can go on and learn how to manage time properly during the exam as well. Of course, we also during the classes make a schedule for the students, and we tell them how they can go on and save a lot of time on individual questions. That's where we as mentors come into picture.
Okay, that's actually great advice to the students. I'm sure they will follow it if they've heard you. Now, since you have taught a number of students in your career, you must have come across a couple of mistakes that they generally make during the GRE exam. So what's the most common mistake you've come across with these students?
See, the most common issue that I come across with all the students who appear for exams like GRE, GMAT, even CAT included there, is that they lose their nerve while giving the examination. They get jittery. And because of that, they revert to their old styles. They forget about all the tricks that they learn. And because of that situation, they aren't really able to answer even the simplest of the questions. So my advice to every student is stay calm and give the test. Ultimately, it's not about life or death. It's just an exam. And with the right preparation, you can always nail it.
Okay, I think that is also a big piece of advice for students, not to lose their nerve, to be calm, to be composed. I think any preparation that a student does, they have to be calm during the exam, because that's where you're tested for whatever you prepared for. So thank you so much for that. So before we end the session, any one major piece of advice for all the students out there who will start their preparation for the GRE exam?
Sure. See, one of the most important things is that I just mentioned, which is during the exam, you have to stay calm. But also another thing is when it comes to GRE examination, understand for verbal section alone, there is a vast lexicon that is tested, and there's a lot of reading material that's tested as well. So I'd suggest to every student, start your preparation in time so that your studies aren't bothered with this, and ultimately you can go on and reach that target score that you keep for yourself.
Thank you so much for that piece of advice that you've given to all the students out there. And I'm sure you have gained a lot of insight about the GRE. If you have a lot of other questions for the GRE or the GMAT exam, don't forget to get in touch with us or even comment on this video. And any one of you out there who is planning to prepare for the GRE exam or has already begun to prepare the GRE exam, please contact us so that we can get in touch with you and we can give you a smarter way to prepare for the exam. Also, follow us on all the social media handles for all the updates and information related to the overseas education sector. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Vashishta, for joining us on this Insight session. And I'm sure that we'll have you on more Insight sessions.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here. And for everyone who's preparing for GRE, all the best.